Hello everybody and welcome back to the Daily Cooking Show. Welcome back to the Daily Cooking Stream. I hope you're all having a beautiful day today. If you are watching this live, it is currently Sunday, 5 p.m. EST, January 12th, and I see that we have all of my lovely sous chefs in the chat. Hello to Moonham, hello to Trashcan Cat Mom, hello to Turina, hello to Cadence, hello to Two Dads Kissing, hello to Fendweller, hello to Yoon, hello to Iliam as well. It is nice to have all of you guys. Welcome on in. Hope you're all having a nice week. I have not had the best week, admittedly. For some of you that may know, I've been sick again, and I'm just now getting over it. So once again, I apologize if I'm gonna sound a little bit sniffly and a little bit low energy, but I'm kind of annoyed about it because I was sick just a couple of weeks ago, and yet here I am again, still sick. Well, with something new this time around, a little bit, so not the happiest about it, a little bit annoyed about it being the winter time, but that's okay. We've gone through the worst of it, and now we can just go ahead and simply focus on the cooking, and there is going to be a lot of cooking ahead of us today. We're going to be showing off a couple of techniques that I don't get to often show off on stream. We're going to be changing a couple of things, and now, hopefully, for those of you that wanted to stream in 1080, we are back in 1080. The new channel should have all of the encoding settings. We're no longer limited, we're no longer held down by the shackles of 720. We now have full HD resolution. Ooh, look at that, amazing. So, enough of that. Everybody, let's talk about the meal that we have coming up ahead of us today. We're going to be doing some scalloped beef. Now, what is scalloping? What does that mean for it to be scalloped beef? All that scalloping refers to when we're talking about meat is to thinly cut it and then usually to also pound it out nice and thin. And we'll talk about why we pound out meat. We'll talk about really what it achieves. And then we'll talk about also why a lot of people kind of look down on this as a technique I often find. So we'll talk about scalloping. We'll talk about pounding out that schmeat. And then we'll also be doing a really, really beautiful red wine mushroom and pearl onion sauce. Pearl onions are not an ingredient that I've worked with in a while. I'm going to show you guys a very nice, easy way to prep it because otherwise peeling a whole bunch of little baby onions is really, really annoying. And it's going to be like a mushroom, red wine, pearl onion sauce. And alongside it, my friends, just some really basic, simple boiled egg noodles and some stewed squash. We're going to be doing the stewed squash with some lemon juice, with some lemon zest, with some parsley, as well as a couple of other things. Is it like peeling a baby bird? Well, Moonha, not quite. Maybe the only similar thing there is going to be the size. So, we have three components that we have to do today. We gotta boil the egg noodles. We have to, of course, make the meat and the sauce that goes along with it. And then we have to do the stewed squash. And so, everybody, today, we're just going to be beginning with these three chunks of meat. Now, if you were to ask me, oh, Daramgar, what cut of beef is this? That's an excellent question for you. I'm going to guess that this is either like a top round or a bottom round, judging by the leanness and the muscle structure, but the reality is I actually have no idea what exact cut of meat this is. And sometimes meat at the store is not really specified where it came from. It is just sometimes specified as stewing meat or whatever. So I just have some lean meat here, but I'm going to show you how to really, really transform it into something very nice and tender and special. When you have a mysterious cut of meat, you are not just limited to braising and shredding and hoping for the best. We can still get the most out of this through the process of pounding it out, and I will be showing you, I will be teaching you exactly how to do that. So, I got these three chunks of meat right here. I'll show you guys how to break it down, but the most important thing is this. Ahead of time, I heavily, heavily salted this meat. Okay, and this is a process called dry brining, my friends. By salting it in advance, we increase the moisture retention, the beef is going to come out a lot juicier, and we allow the salt to fully penetrate it so that it is just not salty on the outside. We want the salt to go fully through the meat, my friends. Trust me, it is not a step that you want to skip. Ideally, I would have done it after I pounded it out and then let it sit for hours, but all I did, covered it with salt, and I let it go for about 6-7 hours in my fridge. Keeping it exposed on a wire rack like this allows all of the excess moisture to just drip down and really gives you a nice piece of beef to work with. So, three chunks of mysterious meat here. Again, I think it's going to be round. I think it's somewhere from the leg. Now, let's talk about all of my other components. For today, I'm going to be using a mixture of two different mushrooms. I'm going to be using some cremini mushrooms as well as shiitake mushrooms. Guys, one of the most awesome things about cooking with mushrooms is how interchangeable they are. If you don't want to spend the extra money on the shiitakes, you could just do creminis or white buttons or portobellos or whatever it is that you have on hand. In my case, I'm going to be using a mix to get just a full spectrum of flavors inside of my sauce today. Now, let's talk about my stewed squash. I have here some gray squash and some zucchini. When I say squash, I'm using, I'm talking about zucchini, I'm talking about summer squash, that kind of thing. When it comes to gray squash, when it comes to zucchini, when it comes to summer squash, they're all mostly interchangeable once again. Feel free to mix and match them, and it's going to be really easy to throw together. I have a little bit of lemon here. This is going to be for some acidity as well as the zest. I have some garlic, because we always have to cook with garlic. And then last but not least, my friends, I have one big old shallot. This might be one of the biggest shallots I've ever seen, and this is going to go towards the stewed squash to give it some of that allium-y flavor. So, those are all of the different vegetables today. I'm going to put that down. Next, let's talk about these. These are some pearl onions. Everybody, we're becoming more professional. In the interest of becoming more professional, here's what I did. I have some whole pearl onions to show you how to trim them. And then I have a bunch of conveniently prepared pearl onions that already have the tops and bottoms trimmed off of them. So, hopefully we'll have a bit of a smoother workflow today, especially with the parsley. I have a whole bunch of parsley. It's going to go in both dishes today. It's going to go into the stewed squash as well as the sauce for the beef. And I've already taken the liberty, okay, I've already done the job of plucking the leaves off the stem, and I'll just be demonstrating how to pluck the leaves off of this one little guy. Okay, so no more watching me for 15 minutes as I sit there and begrudgingly pluck parsley leaves off the stem. I have done you guys a favor, and I have done it off camera. Okay, all that aside, all that behind me, and now let's talk about some of the flavorings. For the red wine sauce, I have some heavy cream in my fridge. We're going to be using, of course, some red wine, any will do. And then I also have some dark soy sauce for a little bit of extra oomph, for a little bit of extra meatiness, and some salinity inside of the sauce. Okay, last but not least for the sauce, we have a little bit of Dijon mustard, just to give it a little bit of more of a lactic tang, just to really give our sauce a lot of flavor here today. Okay, and if we don't like the viscosity of the sauce, we'll also thicken it with some cornstarch, but we'll come back to that if we need to. Okay, so that is roughly all of the different components for today. Everybody, we have to pound out our meat. We'll talk about how to do that. We'll talk about why we do it. We also need to prep all of the pearl onions. I'll show you a very nice, easy way of peeling pearl onions. We have to do the stewed squash. We have to do the mushrooms. We have a lot of work coming up ahead of us. So if everybody is ready, I want to hear a nice resounding yes, chef from everybody watching, please and thank you, as I take a sip of water. Maybe a yes, chef from everybody. So if you're slacking, if you're falling asleep, now's not the time to do so. Okay, excellent. A little bit of housekeeping. First and foremost, welcome on in. If any of you have any cooking questions at any point in time, please remember to ask me. I am here to teach you guys how to cook at home. Okay? Next up, if you'd like to support the show, !Patreon, that is the best way to go ahead and do so. But also, join the Discord. If you're not a part of the Discord, go join it, !Discord. It's a lovely community of people they can go ahead and talk to, especially about food. Okay, so, my friends, we need to begin. And I think that we're going to begin with my pearl onions today. So, let's talk about these bad boys. Now, the first question is, that you might have for me, is, well, wait a second, why are we using pearl onions instead of a regular onion? Well, the answer, my friends, lies purely in the texture. It is very, very pleasant to bite into a whole pearl onion that has just been lightly browned on the outside, nicely sauteed, and then stewed into a sauce. It's like this sweet little delicious bite. Okay, and you don't have to use pearl onions. You could theoretically substitute this with any kind of onions that you would like, but I'm mostly including these for texture reasons. Now, in general, when it comes to cooking, there is a rule of thumb that you can apply, which is that cutting anything smaller, well, hold on, let me try to rephrase this. Prepping the baby version of something is always a lot more difficult than prepping the adult version. A really simple example of this is like, imagine trying to peel little tiny baby potatoes. It's like trying to wash a bunch of little mushrooms. Pearl onions are notoriously a pain in the ass to prep. However, if we were to go through and peel each and every single one of these with a paring knife, we would go insane. Instead, we're going to employ the power of blanching. I have here on the stove a pot of boiling water. And all that we're going to do is we're going to cut off the tops and the bottoms off of the pearl onions, dunk them into the boiling water, shock them in an ice bath, and then that way the skins are just going to peel off nice and simple. Because the skins stay nice and papery, we soften the flesh just underneath, and it separates the skin as it pops out. So, all of my pearl onions, I've already taken off the tops and the bottoms. And now I'm just going to go ahead and demonstrate the process for the remaining few. It's really simple, guys. It's really self-explanatory. You just don't want to waste too much of the onion, okay? They're small, they're baby, they're delicate. If you trim off too much of them, well, you're not going to have a whole lot of onion left at the end of the day. So, just trim off those tops, trim off those bottoms, get them out of here. There you go. There you go. Excellent. And then one last little pearl onion. And everybody, with a little bit of camera magic, you see we have the rest of them prepped and ready to go. I should have been doing this a lot sooner. I feel like so long I've been like doing just piles and piles of vegetable prep on stream, when in reality, I just wanted to show you guys the method. Okay, these guys, all set, all ready to go. Now, the only thing that we need for this is we need to prepare an ice bath, because when we pull out these onions out of the boiling water, we don't want them to turn into boiled mush. We just want to cook them enough that the skin separates. We need to shock it in ice cold water after it comes out of the pot of boiling water to stop and halt the cooking, okay? Also, Trash Can Cat Mom, that is totally okay. I appreciate your contribution anyways. So, I'm gonna go ahead and get a whole bunch of ice cubes. We're gonna get an ice bath ready to go, and that is just going to help us to chill out the onions after they have been blanched. So I'll put these onions behind me. We'll set up this ice bath, and I have, maybe this is not something that you guys have, but I have these massive ice cubes. And I actually quite like them for the process of shocking something, because the ice cubes, the little ice cubes, they tend to melt a lot faster, and they kind of get like stuck in between the food itself. So I'm just gonna pop out two of these absurdly huge ice blocks. Can't really call them a cube at this point. Out they go. Ugh. Chef genius? Well, I don't know if I'm the genius here, Cadence. I'm not the first person to invent using, I'm not the first person to use really big ice cubes for something like this, I have to say. Okay, let's get that ice bath prepped. All we're going to do is just get enough nice cold tap water so that we can submerge the onions once they come out. Okay, and now, my friends, we can begin the blanching process. And it's gonna be super quick, it's gonna be super simple. All they need to do is get dunked into the boiling water for about 30 seconds. Now, you could also just do this by pouring boiling water onto the onions, like with a kettle or something. That would probably save you a pot, but I'm already gonna be using this pot for a whole bunch of stuff today anyways, so I do not mind. Okay, so to the stove we go. We have our blanching station prepped. I'm going to be employing the use of a tool called a spider. This is, hold on, there's like a piece of onion skin stuck to it. Okay, this is one of my favorite kitchen tools of all time, everybody. This is called a spider. It's just able to go ahead and scoop out all of the onions in one fell swoop when the time comes. So, onions prepped, ready to go, ready to be blanched, inside, and only 30 seconds, my friends. So we're just gonna count, roughly. Well, I think I'm just gonna set a timer behind me, because I'm not gonna count down on stream. That might be really bad. That'll get clipped into oblivion. Poor Pokemon. Anyways, we'll count with the timer behind me. Roughly 30 seconds. And we're just gonna agitate them here and there just to make sure that everything is getting nice and submerged, okay? 8 more seconds, and then we'll go ahead and pull them out, nice and easy. And that is all of the cooking that these pearl onions need at this stage for the blanching. Unlike delicate greens or anything, it's not like we can really overcook them at this stage. We just don't want them to turn mushy. We want them to still be able to nice and properly saute to get nice and golden in the pan with fat. So, that's it. That's all that it takes, and you can already see how inclined the onions are to peel away from their skin at this stage. It doesn't take too long to shock them, right? They didn't pick up that much heat. They're pretty big, okay? Wipe that off really quickly. And here we go, everybody. These are all of my now blanched pearl onions, and we'll just let them sit here for a little bit until they're cool enough for us to handle, and then we'll just go through them all and give them a quick little peel. That is how easy prepping pearl onions can be. If you were to sit there and individually peel them, everybody, you will lose your mind. So blanching them is the best way to do it. I want to hear a nice Rosanna chef from everybody watching, please, and thank you. So I'm going to dump out the water inside of my pot here, and we'll be using this pot for something really, really shortly. Okay, so there is another component that we're going to want to prep ahead of time, everybody, and that is going to be our mushrooms. So the mushrooms, oftentimes you will see people discard the stems. Why do you not always want to cook with the mushroom stems? Well, the mushroom stems, they tend to be a little bit woody. They tend to be a little bit tough. So a very nice thing that you can do to not waste the mushroom stems is, of course, to transform them into a lovely little mushroom stock. The mushroom stems are super meaty. They're full of flavor. They're really, really nice and delicious. And I also have a batch of frozen mushroom stems in my freezer that I'll be making the mushroom stock out of. And all of that is just going to go into the red wine sauce. This way, we really, really optimize the mushroom. We get to use the soft, fleshy part for the sauce itself. It's going to be nice, meaty little chunks. And we get to use all the tough parts just for the flavor. Okay? Once again, I'm using a mixture of cremini and shiitake mushrooms, but feel free just to use any combination or just one mushroom. Okay, whatever it is that you would like for something like this. So we're just going to go through it. We're going to pop out each and every single one of the mushroom stems, my friends. Just grab the mushroom, hold it, give the stem a little bit of a wiggle, just like so, and then eventually, although these are a little bit moist, it should be able, it's a little bit slippery, it's a little bit wet. I think I might need to grab like a napkin or a paper towel to help me out with this process. There we go. The stem pops right out. Now, for a white button mushroom, this is not as important. For a cremini mushroom, it's not as important. For a shiitake, I would say this is essential. You don't really want to be eating shiitake stems like that. Shiitake stems are way too tough and way too woody. Okay, there you go. And again, if you leave it in, it's not going to be the end of the world, but just make it nice. I like to really, really optimize these kinds of things, okay? So, pop them out. Awesome. Pop it out. There you go. And just go through this one by one. There you go. And we'll get all those lovely, fleshy little mushroom caps. And ultimately, we don't need a crazy amount of mushrooms for today. Again, its only purpose is to really become a sauce for us. It's there to flavor the sauce. It's there to give the sauce a little bit of texture. But the only texture I'm really looking for at the end of the day is going to be the texture of the beef and the bite of the onions. So all of these mushrooms, they're just going to go ahead and cook down. Hexa, welcome on in. It is lovely to have you. Okay. And just get in there, guys, and just give the stem a little bit of a wiggle. And out it goes. Pops out. Give it a bit of a wiggle. Pops out. Awesome. So, those are the mushroom caps. We're going to be slicing those. I'm going to get my mushroom stems into the pot. And I'm going to be also using all of my leftover frozen mushroom stems. This is from the last time that I prepared mushrooms. I saved all the stems just for the sake of using them in a stock in the future. So I always, always, always hold on to mushroom stems. Okay? It is one of the few things that I don't feel like I waste in the kitchen. I don't consider myself the most wasteless cook around. I definitely use a lot of paper towels. I definitely throw out more things than I should. But mushroom stems are the one thing I never throw away. Because you never know when you need a mushroom stock. That amount of mushrooms would have not been enough for regular mushroom stock. So we just need enough water to get these mushrooms nice and covered. We don't need a crazy amount of liquid for today. Okay? And all I'm gonna do is we're just going to go ahead, take it, crank it up to a boil, put a lid on it, and let it go. How long does it take to really extract the flavor out of the mushrooms? I don't know, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes. Unlike meat, we're not really trying to take the collagen, turn it into gelatin. It doesn't take hours. Most vegetable broths, they only take 20 to 30 minutes, everybody. Okay? So, back to the mushrooms, which have been patiently waiting for us on the cutting board. Just bring it up to a boil, drop it to a simmer, and cook it for 20 minutes. So for these guys, we're going to want to thinly slice them for the sauce today. Okay? So I'm just going to grab one. And it doesn't have to be perfect. Keep in mind that the mushrooms, they significantly shrink down as you cook them. But I'm not looking for huge bites of mushrooms or anything. So I'm going to thinly slice them all the way through. All of my shiitakes, all of my creminis. And the sauce is going to be so flavorful. And the beef is going to be coated with a little bit of flour. And that flour is going to soak up just a little bit of the sauce that is around it. I love mushrooms too, Autumn. And also, because we don't have that much to do today, today's going to be a relatively simple, today's going to be a relatively easy stream. I'm just going to go ahead and take the time to show you guys the right knife technique, right? Oftentimes, I like to call this, well, this is called a claw grip, right? Well, essentially, my pinky and my thumb are holding down the thing that I'm cutting. I'm doing a very aggressive pinch grip on the knife. A lot of people, they hold their knives like this. This is their first immediate instinct to give them a lot of stability, but it puts a lot of strain onto your wrist. So I do a very nice aggressive pinch grip like so. The further up the blade you are, the more control that you have. Okay? Some people, they hold a knife like this. I only really recommend a grip like this for very small blades. For example, look at this paring knife. I can't really go up and grab this because I'm going to end up cutting myself. So for a paring knife, for really, really small blades, you can just grab the handle. For big chef's knives, like this gyuto that I have here, or your Western style chef's knife, or your santoku, you really want to grab it and grab the spine of the blade. And then when I slice it, I'm not chopping, I'm just pushing the knife all the way through. And ideally, you want to hear as quiet of a sound, as quiet of a thud as it hits the cutting board. The louder that it's hitting the cutting board is a pretty good indication of how much you're smashing the knife against the board, which is not really good knife technique, my friends. It's not that good for your knives. You want to have minimal contact with the cutting board. So, slice it, slice it, slice it, slice it all the way through. I'm using my front 3 knuckles to guide my knife. But also for something like this, you don't need perfect knife skills, my friends. This is a mushroom, and mushrooms are so amazing because of how forgiving they are. They shrink down, they get super samey in size, and then you can't really overcook them. Mushrooms are everybody's best friend in the kitchen. Okay, okay, lovely. Get these guys done. Just 2 more to go. I adore mushrooms. They bring me a lot of joy. Do you think plastic cutting boards are over-criticized? Moonha, I have a very good answer for you. And the answer is yes. So, there's been a lot of, concern lately in the past few years about the microplastics that are entering our bodies. And so plastic cutting boards are one of the biggest things that are cited in the kitchen as being responsible for getting microplastics into us. Here is the thing, though, and here is my personal belief on the subject matter. Okay, which is there's microplastics in almost every single aspect of our lives. We inhale microplastics every single time that we go outside because of the friction from the ocean acting upon the plastic in the water, all the erosion there, and then all the tires against roads. Okay, there's so many microplastics that we are consuming all the time that I am pretty sure that there's no way around it. If we would like to avoid it by not using a plastic cutting board, then go ahead. But in my mind, it is quite negligible. But you're also welcome to make your own choices that you would like all the time. Now, a lot of people now say because wood cutting boards harbor bacteria and plastic cutting boards give you microplastics, the only good one is glass cutting boards. Glass cutting boards, awful for your knives. They'll dull it. They'll really, really destroy your edge over time. Do not recommend it at all. My favorite cutting board that I wish I had available to me right now is a high soft cutting board. It's a very, very soft rubber. Technically a larger risk for microplastics than anything else, but it's very nice and gentle on your knives. Okay, so mushrooms all set, all ready to go. And now, let's go ahead and assess the onion situation. My mushroom stock is officially boiling now, so I'm just gonna go ahead and drop that to a simmer so that it doesn't foam up too much or anything. Okay, here's my pearl onions. Look how easy at this stage, well actually, most of them already have peeled off at this point. Okay, but guys, look how easy it is. Boom, there you go, that's it. That is all the peeling that this guy requires. That is how easy it is after we blanch it. We don't have to go in there, we don't have to go in there with a paring knife or anything. It just already takes care of itself exceptionally, exceptionally well. Look at it, pops off, beautiful. That's it, that's how simple it is. Let's go ahead and peel all of my pearl onions. Do I have a favorite technical dish? That's a good question. There's a lot of ways that we could define technical dish here. I don't know how technical we're getting. Now, are you talking about favorite technical to go out and eat or favorite to cook at home? Because almost all the stuff that we do here, I don't feel like is particularly technical. I think everything that we do is like very, very accessible, very easy to do at home by design. So it's a good question. I'm thinking about it. When I go out to eat, I do like to normally go out for things that I can't really cook particularly often at home. But I don't know. I'm sorry, I was not really prepared for your question. I don't have like an answer immediately available in my head. I'm gonna have to give it a little bit more thought. 8329. Okay. Off she goes. Off she goes, and then afterwards we'll just pat these dry really quickly. What about beef Wellington? I think beef Wellington is fun. I think beef Wellington is okay. I just have one issue with beef Wellington, which is if you're eating like a really, really big chunk of tenderloin like that, it's nice to get a really good crust on it, but the issue with Wellington is because of the fact that it is encased in so much other stuff, the crust ends up becoming quite mushy. I really, really like the textural contrast on like a very nicely seared piece of tenderloin. And just like getting that and then like the really, really soft meat on the inside. That is my only criticism of beef Wellington as a dish. Otherwise, I think it's tasty. I think it's quite all right. Oh, you know, it probably would have to be something like fancier ravioli. I love ravioli. I think they're a pain in the ass to make. And so I'll never, ever do a lot of fresh pasta stuff at home, especially like a ravioli. But a really, really good ravioli, I find them to be very special. It's like a little treat, it's a little surprise that you get to tuck into. Okay. And there you go. Now my favorite technical dish to make. That's a good question. I don't like making particularly technical food at home because I find that technical dishes are really, really stressful at home. You have so many dishes that you're making. You have, you know, very limited space. You don't have like a bunch of duplicates of something like you would in a restaurant or like a prep environment. And so I never really tend to do technical stuff at home. I don't really tend to enjoy that process, honestly, all that much. I find that there's a lot of dishes that are just better suited to the home setting. So I don't even think I have an answer for you when we're talking about the home setting. Okay, so guess what? All of my onions are nicely prepped. I'm going to go ahead and just scoop out all of those skins. And guys, that was no trouble at all. All it took was a little bit of love, was a little bit of blanching. Okay, now these onions are wet. We're gonna dry them off and get them onto a separate plate for later. I'll get this out of here. I also don't think that we need the spiders for anything else today. So I'll also go ahead and throw that into the dishwasher. And we'll just go ahead and pat each of my onions dry, and they will be ready for sauteing later today. Boop. And we're not gonna saute them too heavily. We're just gonna get them nice and golden. They'll be really, really yummy. I'm very excited about it. What's also nice, by the way, about cooking pearl onions, about cooking whole onions, as opposed to a bunch of little tiny chunks of onions, is that you do need considerably less fat to actually coat them. The more surface area that something has, if we were to take these and chop these down into little teeny tiny dice, it would take more oil to fully coat everything to get it nicely browned. Okay? What about your thoughts on microwave meals? You know, Aid, that is something that, how do I put this? Everything that I'm doing here is to try and get people excited about cooking at home. As a result, I'm not particularly keen on microwave meals at all because I don't find them to be particularly creatively inspiring. As for my own cooking, where I use a microwave, I do use a microwave sometimes to just really quickly steam vegetables, to then include in like a dish or something, or if I just need to get something done as soon as possible. Otherwise, if we're talking about like instant frozen meals that you go ahead and you microwave, I'm not the target audience of that. I'm here to show you guys how to love cooking, how to love the process of all of this. And microwave meals are not even all that cheap either. So, not really my favorite thing. Okay, we're gonna wipe down my cutting board. And now everybody, it is time for us to move on to the pounding of the meat. So, I have here these 3 chunks of beef, okay? And some of which are quite thick. We're going to be cutting them into slightly smaller medallions. We're going to be pounding them out nice and thin. And then we're going to be treating them with a little solution of baking soda and water. Why are we treating them with baking soda and water? The reason is because that is going to velvet the meat. Velveting is essentially taking the meat and treating it with something alkaline. In Chinese cooking, for example, before you would stir fry some meat, you would typically use something called papan, P-A-P-A-N, excuse me. And that is a very, very strong tenderizer. Also, you could use something like egg whites, or in my case, a little bit of baking soda. Treating it with something alkaline, it gives you like that sort of like stir-fried texture, that super, super soft beef texture, which is what I am looking for today. Okay, now, I am going to be pounding the hell out of this meat, meaning anything that I have on this table, on this little flimsy kitchen island, may be sent flying. So I'm gonna quickly make a little bit of space for us. If I was smarter, I would be pounding the meat on the stable surface behind me instead of this guy. So, volume warning, it's gonna get loud in just a moment. I'm just gonna keep putting stuff behind me just to get all that ready. Okay. And let's slightly lower the heat on my mushroom broth. Okay, excellent. We want the mushroom broth to come out nice and concentrated. Okie dokie. I'm gonna go ahead and tie up my hair for this. So, let's get some gloves on as well. And pounding meat like this, okay, is a very, very nice way to transform a typically quite tough cut of meat. In my case, again, I'm pretty sure I either have top round or bottom round. It's a very nice way of transforming a really, really tough cut of meat into something a little bit more desirable. Oftentimes, tough cuts of meat are really only suitable for braising because you have to cook it for a pretty long time to get it to be able to shred down. By pounding it out, we open up our options and we get to do a lot of different things to it. What is my favorite cut of meat to pound? Again, Aid, any lean cut of meat that would normally be a little bit too tough by itself. Okay, so let's figure out the way that we want to go about this. Because this guy right here, as it is, might be a little bit too thick to pound out. You typically need to get it to approximately like ½ inch or so. But we'll see. We'll see what's gonna happen. Hi, Allie. Welcome on in. It's lovely to have you. We'll see if we need to get this piece of meat thinner or if we could just kind of pound it as it is. Everybody, are we ready? Actually, I'm gonna go ahead and get this knife out of here as well. Is everybody ready? I wanna hear yes, chef. It's gonna get loud. So you could do this in plastic wrap. I'm gonna be using the spiky side because I'm looking for something really, really heavily tenderized. Is the meat ready from the pounding? No, not yet. The pounding has not even begun. So I'm gonna keep moving things off of my table until I'm pretty sure that it'll be okay. And now, okay, I think we'll be okay. Ooh, that's loud, isn't it, huh? How loud is that? That's loud. Well, I gave you guys a volume warning. So if anybody is AFK for this, me when I see Joe Biden. It's not too bad. And you don't have to go too hard or anything. Let's flip it over, and let's see. Now, it is not particularly flattening, and I have a pretty good idea as to why. I think it's because, well, first of all, I think this piece of meat is a little bit too thick, but we're also not going at the cross-section. The muscle fibers are going this way, and typically meat likes to spread out if it's more of a cross-section. So, we might give that a shot in a second, because it's not really flattening all that much. Okay, we have some decisions to make here. How do we get this to flatten a little bit more? This is too thick for my end product. I want it to be nice and thin. I want it to be nice and really, really tender. So, let's grab my knife. I'm gonna first try, nah, this piece of meat is too thin to do the cross section. Okay, here's what we're going to do, everybody. We're going to take it, and we're going to open it up. We're going to open it up right in half. We're going to essentially butterfly it. Okay, I'm going to make an incision right over here. I'm just going to make an incision. I'm going to make an incision. There you go. We're going to open up the meat from the inside, just like so. And then we're going to pound it to a nice even thickness that way. This is essentially butterflying. Again, we have a very, very irregular cut of meat, so we're doing the best that we can. Okay, that should now be able to pound out a little bit better. That should be able to pound out a little bit flatter. Where am I going to put this in the meantime? I guess over here is okay. And now, as you guys can see, okay, my knife is dangling around. So I'm going to put that back here. That is a little bit better. Nice and thin. That's a little bit more of what I'm looking for. Do you say jokes in your head while pounding too? No, not particularly. I've been cooking for too long for me to be entertained by something like this. Okay. Does punching with gloves work too? Moonha, you'll have to do a whole lot of punching. I don't think you have enough leverage. Okay, I think that we have done a pretty good job. We've done a good number to this guy. That's already a little bit better. God damn, that sounds loud. Oh, it is loud. If you guys think it's loud, it's even louder for me. Mechanically tenderizing something is no joke. You think it's dead? I think it's quite dead. Now, again, I'm still not at the thinness that I would like. I still think I started from a piece of meat that was a little bit too thick to be pounding like this. But it is going to be fully tenderized with the power of the baking soda. Now this is metal music, you got it. Okay. Okay, is this gonna be fine? I think that's gonna be fine. Ideally, I would have liked it a little bit thinner. Could you use a roller at some point? Yeah, you could use a roller to also pound it. But I think that's gonna be all right. That's gonna do the job for today. Now, I do wanna prove my point though, about it really, really being important to have the cross-section of the muscle fibers. You can see that the muscle fibers are going this way. They're going this way. So, if I were to go ahead and take this and cut myself a nice little medallion, this should theoretically be able to pound out a little bit thinner. Unless I also cut this guy too thick. Oh guys, I'm gonna be doing this for a while. There you go. I think that's a nice little surface area improvement on it. We could have cut that a little bit thinner. Good night, Edamon. Do I use this for intruders as well? Well, I can't say that I needed it yet for intruders, but I'll certainly keep him in mind. Okay, I think that has been nice and perforated. That is, we really got him this time around. The moral of the story is I should be cutting them even thinner to get the right consistency. So let's give that a shot. Like so. Oh, maybe a little too thin on that guy. Like so. Like so. There we go. And this guy we're just gonna go ahead and butterfly him. We're gonna open him up. There we go. Okay, back to the pounding we go. There we go. That is now a properly pounded piece of meat. I don't think that I'm going to need to do this with all of the meat for today. I don't want to end up with a crazy amount of beef, so I think that is going to be more than sufficient. Well, come back here, please and thank you. There you go. There you go. That's looking good. That's looking good. That's looking good. And now that one last piece, I believe, is left. This is another reason why the plastic cutting board is better than the glass one. Oh yeah, I'm sure that a glass cutting board would just kind of, be gone. It would be destroyed at this point. Although this was also probably something I could have done a little bit more in advance. But I'll know that for next time. I didn't butterfly that the most evenly, but that's okay. All right, I think that for today, this is more than enough beef, my friends. This is going to be plenty of beef. That's going to be just fine. And then the other chunk, I'm going to go ahead and reserve it and put it back into the fridge with a little bit of plastic wrap. The only thing I want to do is just get them all roughly the same size, right? Because as you can see, we have quite a bit of variation in size. This guy right here, of course, being the biggest. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut him down to size ever so slightly. So where is he? Grab him. How is it best to do this? Let's split him right down the middle. Even though we originally butterflied him, I don't think I did that good of a job of opening up the layers. And we're gonna do that in half. There you go. Nice and easy. And I think we have now more than enough beef for today's purposes. Lovely. Okay. I'm going to get the rest of the beef wrapped up in plastic. I'm going to get that guy thrown into the fridge. And then with this beef, we're going to get my baking soda solution ready. And the baking soda solution, my friends, again, that's really going to give us that super tenderized effect that we are looking for. Okay? And we'll do that with like a teaspoon of baking soda, a little bit of water. We'll rub it all over, and then we'll have to let it sit for about 15 to 20 minutes, and then we'll just rinse it off. So this piece of beef, into the fridge she goes. I have no use for that today. I need a little sip of water, of course, though. I'm beginning to get quite dehydrated again. Where's my water bottle? There it is. Oh, that was a lot of pounding. We eventually got it done, though. Okay. What do we need to do? Baking soda and water. That's right. I'm just going to grab a cute little condiment cup, just like so. I'm going to grab some baking soda. And again, the exact amount of baking soda that you're using for this, it doesn't really matter. Again, because we're going to be still rinsing most of it off anyways. Whoop. Hello. I just have a shaker of baking soda, and some got around the edges. Maybe a little bit more than that, actually. Something like this for this amount of beef. And why not? Let's just go ahead and grab the bowl that we used for the onions before. We're just gonna get them inside. We're gonna mix it up with the baking soda. And then afterwards, after it sits for about 15 to 20 minutes, we need to rinse the excess baking soda off. We'll pat the meat dry, and then we'll just let it chill out onto the sheet rack until we are ready to cook with it. So, let's get that beef in. In she goes, in she goes, in she goes. We don't even need to do a baking soda and water solution. This is gonna be just fine to coat it, just by itself. Get that baking soda on, and I'll grab a glove, just so that I can really make sure that everything is nice and properly covered. Everybody, you do not wanna let it sit with the baking soda for too long, maybe only about 20 to 30 minutes. If you let it sit for too long, it's going to start getting a very unpleasant, mushy texture to it, okay? So really, really, really thoroughly incorporate it, get it all over, cover each and every single piece of beef with the baking soda. Cover it all, get it all nice and covered, as much as humanly possible, and I will throw it into the fridge. What do you think about Gordon's famous scrambled eggs, boom or doom? I have an opinion on it, Aid, and that is specifically that it is quite inefficient. He doesn't actually need to be doing such an aggressively low heat for those scrambled eggs. You can achieve the exact texture that he achieves at a medium heat as long as you are still constantly whisking and constantly mixing those eggs. Okay, but what I also don't like about Gordon's eggs is that that has somehow set the new pretentious standard for what scrambled eggs should be like, and it has caused people to really look down on whatever they call quote-unquote not proper scrambled eggs. A lot of people, they watched that video, they made it once, it tasted great, and then they started looking down on other methods of preparing scrambled eggs, when in reality, there's a lot of different ways to do scrambled eggs. So, beef, pounded, baking soda, into the fridge it goes, let it sit, maybe 20 minutes. I'm gonna set a timer just so that we don't let it sit for too long, and then we'll rinse off all of the excess. Okay, guys, I gotta put a whole bunch of stuff away, because remember, when we cook at home, we clean as we go, because I am now done with a handful of these components. So let's get stuff thrown into the dishwasher. Let's get that knife nice and washed. And then we'll proceed with the rest of the vegetable prep that we need to do for today. Do you know what he would say to you if he found that out? Aid, that's okay. I don't even think he really believes in anything that he says. He's a comfortable man who makes a lot of money, so he doesn't really care about food anymore. And yes, Gordon makes a very big deal about salting the eggs at the end. You got it? And then it's not actually all that true. Right? He says, oh, if you salt the eggs in the beginning, they're going to get watery. The raw eggs, after they've been salted, look watery, but after they cook up, it's actually fine. It's more than fine. It's complete and total misinformation. Somebody looked at raw eggs beaten with salt, and they said, this looks more watery, so the end product should be more watery. And that is just not the case at all, okay? It's just total and complete nonsense. And one of those things that people said, and then they just kind of ran with, despite there not being really any evidence to support it. Okay. So, beef has been officially pounded. It is sitting in the fridge with a little bit of baking soda. Now, what am I going to need to do? I am going to need to quickly wash up my knife. And we can proceed with the rest of our prep today. Just gonna quickly give my knife a little wash. There you go. Today is actually going to be a very short stream. There's not too much for us to do. Which is okay. We're just keeping it simple. Okay, Lovely. My knife is all washed. Oh, hi, Willow. Welcome on in. I hope you're doing well today. Okay, so beef officially in the fridge. My mushroom stock is going. What do we need to get done? Well, in order to do the red wine and mushroom and pearl onion sauce, we're actually going to be cooking the mushrooms in advance, and I'll be showing you exactly how to do it. We're going to be doing the wet mushroom cooking method. Instead of simply starting off by sauteing the mushrooms in a whole bunch of fat, I'm going to show you the best way, my friends. So, just quickly wiping off my knife. There we go. That's all set. That's all ready for today. Excellent. Is there anything else that I have to put away behind me? I'm going to get my bench scraper. I already got my waste bowl. Awesome. And my mushroom stock at this point should be just about finished as well. So let's go to that first. My mushrooms, they have given their all into the stock. We have extracted all of their delicious flavor, all of their delicious liquid, and that is going to go into the final red wine sauce. So let's drain that out and get that into a separate container. Got a little strainer. Do I have a separate bowl somewhere that I haven't used yet? And the answer is, I believe not. Not yet, not really. Okay, let's get a nice little liquid measuring cup. And we're just gonna go ahead and strain out this little teeny, you know what, I don't even need to use such a large vessel for this. I could do something a little bit smaller. I could do this little tiny bowl. Get that in there and strain it out. Strain it out. Get all of it in there. Strain it out to make sure that there is no dirt, that there is no other particles. And this is what is going to give the sauce a whole lot of extra meatiness, my friends. There is so much flavor condensed in that little teeny tiny bit of mushroom broth. Okay, the strainer, you are done, my friend. And we can just go ahead and dump out all of this crap. And this is the pot that we're going to be using for the egg noodles later on. Okay, so to the stove we go. Everybody, we're going to be once again employing the wet mushroom cooking method to get these mushrooms inevitably sauteed. The reason why is because if you were to start out the mushrooms in just a little bit of fat, as it is, the mushrooms, they tend to really absorb a whole lot of fat at once. Instead, if you start them out in a little bit of water, you allow them to slowly collapse, the mushrooms release the water, the rest of the water will evaporate, and then if you add the fat, the mushrooms will be properly sauteing in it instead of soaking up all the excess fat around it. What's a scalloped beef? Is it like escalope, or is it something different? Yes, bin bags, you got it. It is indeed escalopes. But I clarified scalloped beef so that, we're not thinking of like scallops for today. Okay, so here's all that we need to do for the mushrooms. Mushrooms, in here they go. We just need a little teeny tiny bit of water to get them started. And this is just going to stop them from burning and sticking to the bottom. The goal is the following. You want to cook the mushrooms in such a way that they collapse, they release all of their excess liquid, the excess liquid evaporates, and then we add the fat, then we add the butter, okay? So I'm gonna slap a lid onto it. I'm just gonna find any lid that I have available. I don't actually have a lid that fits that saute pan. So I guess this is going to do just fine. There you go, it's fine. That's gonna be, oh, actually no, I don't think that's that good for the glass. I'm gonna find something bigger. Let's find something bigger. I don't wanna accidentally explode something. Oh, I would love a whole bunch of new lids. That would be a lifesaver. Okay, this lid, way too big, but again, it's gonna be fine for the job. All we needed, a little bit of water. The water is gonna help it to steam. Let's let it go. Okay. So, what do we gotta do? We gotta prep the zucchini for today. We also have to do the rest of the prep for the sauce. And then we're just waiting for our meat to finish sitting with the baking soda. And then we'll rinse off all of the excess baking soda and let that dry out as well in the fridge. To my cutting board we go. Pearl onions are already done. Let's do the zucchini now. Okay, I have here a bunch of lovely little zucchinis, okay? Well, specifically gray squash and zucchini. And I really like this as a side dish just because of how accessible it is, just because of how easy it is. This is not one of those things that you can mess up. You can overcook it, you can undercook it, you can make it a little bit crunchy, you can make it all the way soft, and it still is going to just be delicious and flavorful. Okay, so let's go ahead and we're going to cut off the tops and the bottoms of each and every single one of them. And again, you can use yellow squash, you can use gray squash, you can use zucchini, all of them interchangeably. Quite frankly, they all taste exactly the same to me. Maybe zucchini, it sometimes feels like it has a little bit more seeds in it, but otherwise, it all feels pretty identical to me. And now, we need to decide what is the size that we want to cut these bad boys. And I just want something nice and comfortable to eat. I'm going to go for like a nice medium chunk on them. Okay, so cut this guy in half. And we're just going to slice it, slice it, slice it, slice it, slice it. Because look at what happens when you chop it, everybody. If you were just to go vertically down, watch this. Ready? You get a wedge. You get a diagonal wedge instead of two perfect halves, like this guy. You see? Two perfect halves, diagonal wedge. You want to slice it so that it's able to stay straight and even. Okay? Let's try it again. Ready? And go. Slice all the way through. Excellent. Take this guy and slice it all the way. Awesome. And now, as for my final chunks, as for my final pieces, I'm just going to cut this like so. I'm going to cut it like so. I'm going to stack it up and get a medium dice. Something like this. Really simple, really easy. And my mushrooms, they're currently coming up to a boil. But we still want to keep that lid on, everybody. We want to keep that lid on because the goal is to steam it. The goal is to break it down and to get the mushrooms to release all of their own liquid. We only started out with a few drops of water, but you're going to see in a second how much of their own liquid these mushrooms are going to release. Okay? So, let's keep prepping. And once again, everybody, if you have any and all cooking questions, please feel free to ask me. Cut it, cut it, cut it. Get it cubed up for the stewed squash today. It's just supposed to be a very nice, simple little vegetable side dish. Nothing crazy, nothing complex. There we go. There we go. Okay. Ooh. Everybody, I want to show you something right now, actually. I want you to see, with just a little bit of cooking, despite the fact that we only started with a few drops of water, look at how much liquid has come out of these mushrooms. They are now effectively boiling in their own liquid. This is not liquid that we want to strain. This is not liquid that we want to get rid of, mind you. Okay, this is all basically, you want to think of this almost as like a mushroom broth that we're creating in here. But now that we've collapsed the mushrooms, we're going to take the lid off and evaporate all of that excess liquid. And only once that liquid is evaporated will we add in a very, very generous chunk of butter. Okay? So, back to this. Whenever my cutting board, is starting to get a little bit crowded, I'll just move it all off to a separate plate so that we're not overcrowding my work surface. Using my bench scraper, scoop it up, lift it up, and get it out of here. There we go. Come on, thank you. And I know this looks like a lot of squash, but ultimately, it's all going to go ahead and cook down. There we go. And let's get these guys. But also, as the water continues to evaporate from the mushrooms, you do want to start to begin babysitting it a little bit. The water on the bottom is going to get a little bit more viscous. It's going to become more and more concentrated with all those mushroom proteins, and you really do not want it to burn and stick at the bottom. So the baking soda needs about 8 more minutes to act on the beef. You can start to hear the pan sizzling almost around the edges as the water is continuing to evaporate. Okay? All of my lovely mushroom pieces. They're getting ready. They're soon going to be able to properly saute, my friends. And so, I'm going to grab a little bit of butter from my fridge. And whenever you hear that sound, my friends, you hear it. Whenever it dies down, whenever it starts getting drier and drier, whenever it starts sizzling, whenever it starts sticking, that's when we'll go in with the butter. And I'm just moving it around to ensure that all the mushrooms are coated with that liquid. I am using this spoon. I don't know if you guys know how big this thing is. It's actually kind of clunky. I really like it, but I wish the handle was about half the size. Because this is kind of ridiculous. Almost done. It's almost done drying out. You can see those proteins on the bottom, guys. Just really, really scrape it up. And now we're going to go in with a big chunk of butter. I want a nice generous chunk because we're also going to be using this butter for the onions. Come on, get it on there. Stop it from sticking immediately. Okay, what am I doing? Wooden spoon, smaller spoon, please. Thank you. I really like that for pots and really, really big like Dutch ovens and stuff, but I think that's too big for, this little pan that I got going at the moment. Okay, I didn't work fast enough. My mushrooms, they've begun to slightly stick around the sides. The proteins have started to stick around the sides. That's okay. It's all gonna come together. Medium heat at this point. The mushrooms have begun to enter the sauteing stage. And to this, we'll add in all of my diced, or not my diced, just my prepped pearl onions. In they all go. And it's all just cooking along with the butter now. Okay, what does it need? It's gonna need two things. It's gonna need a big pinch of salt, and it's also gonna need a good amount of pepper. Salt goes in, and pepper. There it is. The pearl onions, the mushrooms, they're all going. And we're gonna get them nice and golden. Nice and delicious. That's it. Really simple. Chef, are you not wearing any shoes? I do not wear shoes in the kitchen, no, especially in the home kitchen. I've tried, but it gets like a little bit too warm. I don't really like it. Chef, have you ever cooked kohlrabi? I used to love that. My grandma grew it in her garden. Actually, I have no experience cooking kohlrabi whatsoever. I find it quite delicious, but I've never actually gotten around to cooking it before. Okay, just stirring it, sauteing it. And we're just looking for a little bit of golden color on the onions themselves. We don't want just a purely boiled onion, just boiled in the sauce. We want it to have a little bit more love than that. We want it to have a little bit more flavor than that. So we're developing all of that here and now. Excellent. Okay, so what do we have left for us to do today? In a couple of minutes, we're going to be rinsing off all of the excess baking soda from the beef. We'll be laying it back out onto the sheet tray just for it to dry out. We'll be coating it in flour. We'll be searing it in the oil. We'll be pulling out the excess oil, adding in the onions, adding in the mushrooms, adding in the red wine, adding in the mushroom stock, a little bit of the soy sauce, adding in the mustard, and a little bit of heavy cream. And we're going to let that meat just slowly come up to temperature and all of that sauce that we're building. Is this like a mukbang prologue, or do you just save the eating for off stream? We normally just take a couple of bites at the end of the stream, but we keep it, we don't do too much eating on camera. I don't like eating on camera. all that much. I'm also just like teaching you guys about what we have going on. And we can just steal a little mushroom just to try in the meantime. Everybody, it's so flavorful. You know, just butter, just onions, just mushrooms, a little bit of salt and pepper. But let me tell you, those creminis and shiitakes, so simple and yet so delicious. Okay, 2 more minutes before we have to really rinse out the meat. And now, we also have my shallot. And this shallot, also Golda Karaji, welcome on in. We're going to be using this for, of course, the stewed zucchini. I'm just going to be cutting off the top. And I'm taking it and I'm slicing it right in half like so. So that we can go ahead and peel open the shallot. Peel it open. Peel it open. Thank you. Oh, come on, buddy. Thank you. And then, for the zucchini, I'm actually just going to be looking for pieces of shallot today. Normally, you'll see shallot finely minced into sauces, finely minced into dishes. But I want nice pieces of it. I want to get that allium flavor. I want to be able to bite into it. So I'm just going through it, and I'm slicing it nice and thin like so. Slicing it, slicing it, slicing it. I love shallots too. They're really, really delicious. Okay. There we go. And with that being said, my timer has just about rung. These onions, these mushrooms, they're picking up some really beautiful color on them. Excellent. I'm very, very pleased with how this is going. So, when we look at the beef, we're not really going to notice an immediate difference or anything, but we'll definitely notice the difference when we do get around to cooking it. It has been velveting officially for about 20 minutes. Because it is a slightly thicker piece of meat than I intended, I am considering just leaving it in there for about 4 minutes longer or so before we go to the rinsing of the meat. And again, we want to rinse off that baking soda so we don't have that unpleasant metallic taste to it or anything. That would not be preferable. Normally, I'm very, very opposed to any kind of washing of meat. It just ends up being clunky. It ends up not being very useful. But for something like this, guys, it is quite important. Okay. Shallots, zucchini, all of that is prepped. Awesome. Let's get these mushrooms going. Let's get these mushrooms moving around. We're developing some lovely fond on the bottom of this pan. Excellent. Okay. Awesome. Does anybody have any questions for me in the meantime? Today's pretty chill. We got all of our prep done. We don't have that much more to do. We're just waiting on stuff to finish up now. And I guess I could take the meat out. What would you say to Gordon if you met him in person? I have a lot of choice words for him, Aid. A whole lot of them. Not a big fan of Gordon. But I can go into that another time. It's all coming along very, very nicely. My meat has been removed from the fridge. So I'm going to go ahead and do, everybody. I'm just going to go ahead and run each piece of meat under some cold running water and then put it onto my sheet tray. So please excuse me while I do that. And I will be taking the chat with me So even though you can't really see me on the camera, I will still be able to read whatever it is that you have to say to me, or whatever it is that you have to ask of me. I'm going to quickly lower this though to about a medium low, just so that my onions and mushrooms don't risk burning at all at this stage. Okay? So just taking each piece of beef, getting all that baking soda off of it. And onto the sheet tray it goes. Ooh, some of these are much thicker than I intended on them being. I didn't do that good of a job pounding them out, truthfully. Okay, guys, what are these questions? What would I say to Guy Fieri? What would I say to Peter Griffin? What's going on? What's happening? I don't know if those are cooking questions. I don't know if those are questions I can even entertain. I have nothing to say about Peter Griffin. Guys, what am I supposed to say to that? Oh yeah, these pieces of beef are significantly thicker than I initially intended. That might be a bit of a problem. I really hope that the baking soda was able to do something in time. But honestly, some of these pieces might actually end up being quite tough. Might end up being quite chewy. That was my own fault though, for not having cut them thin enough before pounding. Okay, enough beeping. That was the original timer for when to rinse out the meat. The mushrooms and the onions, they're getting nice and golden. They're getting nice and sauteed. They're building up a really good amount of color onto it. And all of that color is just going to translate to extra flavor inside of my sauce today, my friends. Okay, take you guys back with me. What's going on, chat? What are you guys doing? Okay. Onions, mushrooms, going. They're cooking along. We can push them a little bit longer. And now we'll just have to focus on flouring the meat. We're going to get a little bit of flour onto it because the flour, after it's been fried a little bit, it really helps to absorb the sauce around it. Chef, what do you think of a pepper version of shakshuka with gochujang and scallions incorporated? That sounds delicious. Okay. Did you start cooking because you have a crush on Emil, Aid? I like Emil. I actually really like the way that he ran his show. I think the way that he ran his show was super fun. Oh my God, I'm being bombarded with questions. I don't think I can keep up with him this much. A little bit longer on these guys though. Just building up more browning, building up even more flavor for the sauce later on. A shiitake fell out, so it makes for an excellent snack for me. Lovely. Okay. Wait, who is that? Oh, Emil, I thought you meant Emilio Lagasse. I'm sorry, I don't know who Emil is. I thought you were talking about Emilio Lagasse though. Okay, I'm just making a little bit of space. I have my chunks of beef right here. I'm gonna get some flour on it and then we'll get it frying. I might only just use my thinnest pieces of meat. I really did neglect to get them all as thin as I would have liked them to be, which is a bit of a misstep on my end. Okay. Everybody, we picked up a nice, good amount of color onto the mushrooms. We picked up a little bit of color onto the onions. I am going to say that this is done, this is set, and this is ready to go. So, here is my beef. It's already been brined with the salt. The salt should be fully penetrated inside of it, so it's not like it's going to be a completely unseasoned piece of meat or anything. And now the only thing that we gotta do is we just gotta dredge each of these bad boys in a good amount of flour. Before we do that though, we have to pat them dry. I ran out of my latex gloves. I neglected to get another box before the show, so I'm gonna go ahead and grab one now. Wherever did I put them? Aha. Okay. I found my latex gloves. Excellent. And we're just going to get them coated in flour. Get a nice big plate. Get 2 plates, in fact. One of these are going to be where the flour sits, and the other is going to be where the beef that has been dredged in the flour goes. Okay. Let's get a couple of spoons of flour. We'll get into one of the plates. We'll pat the beef dry, and we'll get cooking. Where is my flour? There it is. Excellent. Do you think the mushrooms have gotten back to 100% their initial volume, but with butter instead of water? Not at all. Because once you do cook the mushrooms, even just a little bit, their texture is fully collapsed. It's not like they reabsorb the same amount that was lost before. There's a lot of little tiny air pockets inside of it. So, you can't really have a vegetable sort of return to its initial form before cooking or anything. So once again, my meat is fully seasoned. My sauce is going to be fully seasoned. We do not need to add additional seasonings to the outside of the meat at this stage. Okay? It'll just be overkill. We already have plenty on it as it is. Let's get some paper towels. I'm going to pat this meat dry. And then we'll get it into the flour. There we go. Get it patted dry. We don't want any of that excess moisture in there. It's just going to make the frying process a little bit more difficult. Have I seen Ratatouille? I have, Aiden. I have. Okay. Just dredge it, make sure it's nice and covered, and then we'll just pat out the excess. Cover it, cover it, cover it, cover it. I don't think I have a Ratatouille crush aid. Okay. And lay it inside. Awesome. Next piece goes in. Dredge it, dredge it, dredge it. Fully dredge it. And we're not going to make the meat crispy or anything. It is going to go back into the sauce. But again, the flour is going to be able to brown up quite well. And it's going to be able to soak up the sauce around it. Okay? Excellent. Oh wait, why did I just pat that meat dry after dredging it? I messed up my order. Okay, next piece. I didn't pat it dry. Guys, I'm messing up my order of operations. Oh no. Dredge, dredge. There you go. There you go. Now it's coming along. Chef is losing it slightly. It's because of AIDS questions. AIDS questions are getting me good. Okay. Let's see. Yeah, there's a few pieces I'm going to avoid just because of how big they are. I once again forgot to pat this piece of meat dry, but that's okay. That's fine. Okay. Where's the next one? Is it going to be this one? It's going to be this one. Did I add salt to the meat before? I did, Sunny Peach Crush. The meat has already been thoroughly dry browned. So it is fully salted on the inside. And then the sauce is going to be nice and flavorful. So there is no need to worry about that for this. Fully coated. Okay. And we're going to do these 2 little pieces. Those other guys, they might be too thick for today. Okay. Excellent. And last one. I forgot to pat dry all of them. But it's fine. The moisture on the outside will help the flour to adhere or something, I'm sure. Okay. That's all taken care of. And we're just gonna go ahead and dump out all of that excess flour. I'm not going to cook the super, super thick pieces of beef because I do not think that they have tenderized properly at all. And it'll just be a waste of our time to cook them. I'd rather go ahead and do something else with them. So those I'm gonna be putting back into the fridge for a different use in the future, whatever that may be. I don't know yet. This flour we can go ahead and discard. We have no use for it, and all of our meat is officially floured. That's all floured, that's all set, that's all ready to go. And I'm gonna go ahead and just quickly get this plate, as well as the previous bowl, thrown into the dishwasher. Okay, now we can begin frying the meat, my friends. We're going to get a really, really nice golden crust on it. And we're going to build a sauce inside of that pan. And it's going to be excellent. So, quickly rinsing off my hands. Where's my towel to wipe my hands off? There it is. Okay, excellent. Also, Aid, I gotta say, that's a lot of questions you're throwing at me. Maybe too many. I would, a little bit. Thank you. So, everybody, my onions, my mushrooms, all set, ready to go. My meat, it has been brined, it has been pounded, and then we also treated it with a little bit of baking soda. Okay? And now, it is getting ready for it to be fried. I'm gonna go ahead and move this off to the side. I'm gonna go ahead and get a fresh pan ready to go. And once again, we don't really need to get a large amount of oil or anything. We're not gonna be getting this meat crispy or anything because it is going to ultimately end up cooking inside of the rest of the sauce. We're just going to need enough oil for it to not stick, for it to be able to get a nice good color onto the flour. So medium heat or so, okay, just a straight medium. And I'm going to go in with, honestly, any neutral oil for this is fine. We have a lot of surface area that we need to cover. I'm not going to be using a more expensive olive oil because we're going to be getting rid of most of the oil after we pan fry each of these cutlets, okay? So I just want enough avocado oil on the bottom. Any neutral oil is fine. Peanut oil, avocado oil, canola oil, whatever. And it's going to pool up even more whenever the meat gets added onto it. So just enough to really, really generously cover the bottom of the pan, just like so. And I'm gonna get rid of this lid. I have no use for that anymore. Get rid of this pan while I'm at it too. So here is the order of operations for the meat, everybody. We're going to seal it. Then we're going to remove the oil, we're going to remove the meat, we're going to deglaze it with red wine, we're going to add in the mushroom stock, we're going to add in the soy sauce, and we're going to build a very, very nice, rich, thick sauce. Aid329, too many questions, buddy, too many. You might be the first person to hit me with too many questions. So please, thank you, it'd be really appreciated. Now, I want this oil to get nice and hot. I want to get a really nice, good color on all the flour. I want it to get nice and golden. I want to be able to get a nice, good crust. If everybody's watching, I want to hear a nice resounding yes, chef. Please and thank you. We got a little bit all over the place for a second, but I'm reeling it back in. We're getting back into the swing of things. Okay. All the stuff behind me is all stuff that I can go ahead and throw into the dishwasher. Also get a pot of water ready for the noodles. And we also got to do the stewed zucchini in a little bit. And that can happen basically while the beef is cooking because of how quick the zucchini itself is. So, just getting that ready. Gonna move that to the side. Excellent. I'm gonna bring my plate of beef right on over. Of beef, excuse me. How reflective is that? Well, it actually seems like we can't really change much of the reflectiveness of it. That's okay. And then while that's cooking, everybody, that's when we'll be working on the zucchini, which is just going to be really, really simple for the zucchini. We'll just be sauteing the shallots. We'll be adding in some garlic, which we haven't prepped yet. We'll be doing the lemon. We can see the oil if that's your concern. No, Moonha, I was talking about like the little light spots. You see those two light spots? That's my microwave lighting. And I wanted to minimize the reflection as much as possible, but there's only so much that you can do. Again, we just want it to be nice and hot so that the meat does not stick to it significantly. Where's my water? There she is. Yeah, but now things are slowing down finally. The exact temperature for something like this doesn't matter. You know, because we are shallow frying, it's not like we're going to be getting something as even as a deep fry. It's just a little quick little pan fry. We're just going to be taking it to the point where it is just slightly starting to smoke. And I think that's going to be a good point for us to drop our lovely cutlets and our lovely scallops in, or scalloped beef in. Okay? So, she's going. She's heating up slowly. We're letting her do its thing. If I met Rosanna Pansino in person, I would say that I admire her work in the kitchen and see her as the leader in YouTube cooking videos. Yeah, sure. I think that's what I would say to Rosanna Pansino. She became a drama YouTuber. She commented on all the Mr. Beast stuff lately, didn't she? She has pivoted her platform from nerd baking videos to drama videos, I think. That's what she did. Okay, how's my oil? Just want nice and hot. And you do want it slightly overheated. Please keep in mind that we're going to be essentially adding in a bunch of cold meat onto the pan. It's going to lose a lot of the temperature. So you want it to be slightly hotter than you actually want it so that it's all able to level out. So how are you feeling, chef, from your sickness and all? I'm a little bit sick still. I'm still a little bit congested. I'm still a little bit sniffly. But I'm getting there, Shy Chica. I'm almost healthy. Thank you for asking, though. I appreciate it. Almost there, my friends. We're almost at the temperature that we would like this to be. We're going to seal it off, we're going to get some good color on it, and we'll let it slowly cook up in that sauce. So does that mean we're using more oil than normal to prevent total heat loss? Like more oil equals more heat retention, but also slower reheat. We're not specifically adding more oil than normal to prevent total heat loss. We're using this much oil because we are cooking with flour. With flour, you don't really want it to have direct contact with the metal because then the flour really tends to burn that way. So we do need enough oil to slightly envelop it. Okay, that's why we are using so much oil. It's because of the fact that we are working with the flour. Almost there, everybody. And we could just probably give it a little sound check, right? Right? You can hear how soft that sizzle was when I added it on in. I think I can give that another minute or so of preheating. You want slightly shimmering, slightly smoking, and then it'll be ready to go. So, a little bit longer. And then while that's cooking, while that's frying up, when we actually get to the stewing part of it all, that's when we'll really work on doing the rest of the zucchini stew. It'll be delicious. Okay, now is the time, everybody. I think that this is going to be a good time for us to go in. We're going to go ahead and fry away each of these lovely pieces of meat. We're going to go ahead and get a nice good crust on it. We're not going to poke it around too much so that we don't significantly smush up the flour at this stage. But again, we build up this crust of flour on the outside, and it's just able to soak up all of that sauce. And guess what? That perfectly fits inside of the pan. Look at that. That's going. Will we need a lid? We don't need a lid for this one, Moonha. We just want to be able to get a nice good crust on both sides, and then we'll take it out. Not too long at all. And I'm just going to go ahead and get my same plate ready with some paper towel to soak up any of the excess oil that comes out. Because I do not, and I repeat, I do not want a greasy sauce at the end of it all. And if it looks like The flour on top is disappearing. That's just like a little bit of humidity. That's just like a little bit of the oil that's almost saturating the flour that's on top. What makes it scalloped? That has to do with the process of thinly slicing it and pounding it out figurative. Do you discard the rest that you don't eat on stream? Oh, I eat everything, Aid. All of this is stuff that I end up eating throughout the week. Also, thank you so much to PLB for the raid. Oh my gosh, welcome on in. Hope you're having an excellent day today. Welcome, welcome. It is good to see all of you. What's cooking? You can type in exclamation mark menu. Everybody, welcome to the best cooking show on Twitch. Let me know if you have any and all cooking questions. We're doing some scalloped beef today. We're doing a red wine and pearl onion and mushroom sauce. I'm just gonna go ahead and get each of my little tiny chunks of beef. Now, originally it was supposed to be scalloped. However, it wasn't all that successful, truthfully. I don't think I cut them nearly thin enough, but with the baking soda, with the velveting, it should turn out super, super, super tender by the end of it all. Welcome on in. It's lovely to have you. I hope you had a good stream today. PLB Raiders missed the pounding of the meat. That's right, Serena. We went at it with a mallet. We pounded it for a little bit. So I'm sorry that, you guys missed out on that. Great. That's cooking along. That's doing its thing. It's going. I know, PLB. I'm aware. I'm very well aware. The auto mod has been going off today with Trace pounding meat. It's been having a field day with that. So again, we're just looking to get a nice good amount of that browned flour. We're looking for all of that flavor on the outside of that meat developed. And then we'll go ahead and we'll take it out. After which, we'll get rid of all of that excess oil. We'll add in the red wine and we'll cook it down. Because I don't want the sauce to be too greasy. I don't want it to be too heavy. The oil is just functional enough for us to be able to coat the flour and to really, really evenly cook it on the beef itself. So, we've gotten a good bit of color on it. I think honestly now is not a terrible time to go ahead and pull out the meat. Let's pull it out. Let's pull it out. And onto my paper towel lined plate. And then we'll be pulling out all of the excess oil in just a second. Excellent. And there we go. So, we don't need any of this oil for the pan sauce. We're gonna want some of that browned flour that is sitting at the bottom of the pan though. So, I'm just gonna go ahead and grab a separate bowl. I'm gonna pour the excess oil inside. And then the rest of this pan will be purely dedicated to the sauce making. For the meat to all cooking. There we go. That's gonna be more than fine. And now, in goes all of my mushrooms and my onions. All of them go in, all of them in, all of them in. This is the basis for the sauce today, my friends. Get it all inside, get it all inside. Thank you very much. They've already been sauteed. They're already nice and beautiful and golden, okay? Now, please resist adding any more salt at this stage. We're going to have plenty of salt inside of the final product, especially with the addition of the soy sauce. So please, please, please resist the temptation now. In goes a lot of red wine, because this is, after all, a red wine sauce. We've poured in the red wine. Let's go ahead and deglaze the bottom of the pan. Let's get all of those bits of stuck flour at the bottom. Let's get all those stuck proteins at the bottom. Let's get it dissolved. And in goes my mushroom stock as well. My mushroom stock, my red wine goes in. And we're gonna get those onions cooking. We're gonna get those onions softening at this stage. Just really, really scrape it up, go all the way around, go all the way around. Scrape up everything that is stuck to the bottom of the pan, guys. Okay, and this is all gonna be really, really delicious at the end of it all. Brown flour is similar to, but different from fond. It's like a form of fond. Serena, I suppose it's like a form of fond. We could call it that and nobody would really get upset at me. So, all we gotta do now, we gotta bring that up to a boil, we gotta drop it to a simmer, and we have to let that thicken and cook up slowly. In the meantime, everybody, we have another fish to fry. Specifically, it's gonna be the stewed zucchini. So, I'm just quickly wiping off my cooking surface. I'm just getting all this oil off before, you know, it cools down and then becomes impossible to clean later on. Chef, do I ever use demi-glace? Everly, I can't say I oftentimes use demi-glace just because I never really have it at home. It's a lot of effort to go through the process of making your own demi-glace. So, up and away she goes to the other stove. And we're just going to get that simmering away. We're going to be stirring it often to make sure that none of the red wine is burning on the bottom of the pan. And we're just going to get that reducing until it is nice and saucy and glossy. And we're going to be adding the meat right back to that. Now, in the meantime, for the stewed zucchini, I have this nice saucepan right over here. And I'm going to go in with a generous amount of extra virgin olive oil. You want a really, really good amount of olive oil to go ahead and cover all the zucchini. The zucchini, guys, it takes no time at all. We're using a nice, delicious, pasty fat, like the olive oil, or honestly, any fat of your choosing, because you want to be able to taste the fat in a dish, and you don't really want to use something like a canola oil or a vegetable oil for this. So, vegetable oil goes in, and I'm just also going to check on the texture of my beef. That's quite good, I have to say. And nicely seasoned to that. That's quite nice. Okay. I'm just gonna go in there. I'm just gonna stir it up. I'm just gonna stir it up, just gonna stir it up. There she goes. And to let my meat slowly braise, to let it slowly cook in the rest of the red wine, I'm just gonna go ahead and add it in. Add it in, add it in. Whoop, hello, please. Add it in. But yes, this meat was unfortunately a little bit too thin, or a little bit too thick, excuse me, for my velveting to have worked as well as I would have liked it to, which is a tragedy, but that's okay. It's going to still get nice and tender in the process of cooking it down in all the sauce. A lot going on. We're juggling a whole lot of components at the moment, but we're keeping up the pace just fine. Does anybody have any cooking questions for me in the meantime? Once that oil is nice and hot, we're just heating this up on a nice medium-low. We're going to go in with all the shallots. We're going to fry up the shallots. We're going to add some garlic. We're going to add the zucchini. We're going to add in some parsley, and it'll be perfect. Okay. As for this, though, I'm just going to tuck all of that in. Make sure all of that beef is submerged by the red wine. Make sure it's all submerged. And the flour is also going to help to slightly thicken everything up. The goal, to get that meat nice and soft, and to get those pearl onions nice and cooked through all the way. Medium, medium, low or so. Will those onions stay whole? Correct. That is the joy of it. That is the joy of eating a pearl onion, Karmajin. Okay. How do you position silverware in the dishwasher? How do the silverware up or down in the little basket thingy? I do head up, Slippy, but honestly, it doesn't really matter too much. Okay, guys, olive oil. We don't need it screaming hot because we don't want to burn the shallots. We just want to be able to get them nice and golden, okay? So, in goes all of my shallots. In they go, and we're going to let them properly infuse into all of that olive oil. Medium, medium, low heat. Keep in mind, shallots burn a lot easier than regular onions, okay? So, keep that in mind, stir it often, don't leave it too long by itself. So, in the meantime, my beef is going, my shallots are going. Let's go ahead and get my garlic prepped because I neglected to do the garlic ahead of time. I'm just gonna grab a couple of cloves, actually not just a couple, quite a few cloves of garlic for the zucchini because you can never have too much garlic for something like this. 2, 3 of these super, super big cloves. Yeah, 3 fat cloves of garlic. Awesome. We're gonna go ahead and take our bench scraper and give it a smash. And give it a smash. And give it a smash. There you go. Nice and simple. And now that we've given it a smash, all the garlic skins should pop out. Okay. Who inspired you to start cooking, Aid? That's a good question. I've been cooking since I was about 7 years old. I was always really, really interested in food. I watched a lot of the Food Network growing up. And growing up, I also got really sick of eating Russian food all the time. And so I wanted to be able to cook more because I grew up in a Russian household and I was oftentimes only really eating my Russian grandmother's food. Okay. So that's what inspired me to start cooking, a little bit of spite. But then it was also my lifelong special interest. Also, I think the scene in Madagascar, where, you know, I forgot all the names of the characters. I guess the lion was like drowning in steak. Definitely did numbers to me in terms of like what my perception of like delicious food was as a child. Alex the lion, there you go. Not a very creative name in retrospect. Okay, shallots. Going nice and slowly. Excellent. Looking really, really good at this point. And we'll salt it, we'll pepper it in just a second. Let's go ahead and get my garlic press. There's my garlic press, one of my favorite kitchen tools of all time, because chopping garlic by hand is super sticky and super annoying. Garlic goes in, and give it a big smush. And give it a big smush. But yeah, it was specifically the steak scene that I feel like when he was like drowning in all those T-bones. Was it the T-bones or was it a ribeye? Whatever kind of cut meat it was. It was like a circular bone in it. I don't think it was a T-bone. I'm pretty sure it's like those leg steaks that have a circular bone in it in the cross section of it all. Okay, guess what? Garlic, all prepped, all ready to go for my zucchini. Excellent. Just checking on my beef in the meantime. It's looking good. I'm just gonna flip it over to ensure that she is evenly cooking. Excellent. Very, very pleased with how this is all coming along now. Okay, back to the shallots. I also can't read Russian, by the way. I know I grew up speaking it, and I can still speak it, but I can't read it, I'm afraid. Shallots, getting nice and golden, infusing into the extra virgin olive oil. The extra virgin olive oil is the basis of flavor for the stewed zucchini, okay? A little bit of salt goes in now, and we'll salt it more when the zucchini itself is added. And a little bit of pepper goes in. Medium, medium, low again, everybody. It is not a race. Just take your time. And we could even do, just for fun, just because I have some laying around, let's also just go ahead and do some red pepper flakes while we're at it. Just for a little bit of extra pinch of something else going on. Red pepper flakes. There we go. I wasn't initially planning on it, but let's have it infuse into the oil as well. That's it. And my beef is slowly cooking along. That's looking quite good. I just really want to make sure that it's being kept nice and submerged this whole time. That is key to getting it to cook up evenly. Nice. Oh, a lot going on. We're juggling a lot of components, guys. Please bear with me. And that's going to be the water for the egg noodles later on. We'll just be going in with a little tiny splash of soy sauce for extra salinity inside of the sauce for the beef. This is looking good. This is getting nice and golden. Everybody, it is time for us to go in with our garlic. And chef, is there a dish that you can't cook? Asks D. Earhart. And the answer is no. I'm afraid that I can cook everything, at least conceptually. I've been cooking for a very long time. The only things I guess I can't technically cook very well would be like bread baking, but otherwise not so much. Would this be the unique USA person who cooks properly? That's me. Welcome on in, Sten. It's lovely to have you. I'm the only one. I'm kidding. There's quite a few amazing American cooks out there. But I am more than anything a humble cooking teacher. Shallots, garlic, red pepper, salt, and black pepper as well. All of it is coming together. And essentially the goal is we want to create a very delicious seasoned olive oil. Okay? We're going to create a very, very delicious seasoned olive oil that's going to be able to properly coat all the zucchini. And then we'll finish it with lemon juice, lemon zest, as well as some fresh parsley for a little bit of extra freshness at the end of it all. So we're stirring this often. We're making sure that the garlic is not burning. We have all of that delicious flavor from the shallots inside. And now goes in all of the zucchini. And this seems like a lot, but trust me guys, it's all going to end up cooking down. And it's all going to get nice and soft and delicious. So in she goes, in she goes, in she goes, in she goes, alongside a big pinch of salt. It is supposed to reduce, correct. The red wine sauce is supposed to significantly reduce. So, big hit of salt goes in. Let's mix it around, and let's get all of that zucchini coated with the oil. The zucchini itself, it's not really going to fry or anything, because it's going to just start releasing a bunch of liquid on its own. And because we're in a saucepan, it's just going to be a very, very steamy, wet environment. The zucchini in total, maybe 15, 20 minutes in total, not too long. Chef, what do you mean by reduce? Good question, Cadence. We're essentially evaporating all of the excess liquid from the red wine sauce, and we are leaving behind all of the sugars, all of the starches, etc. And that gives us a glossy, thick final product as opposed to something watery, as well as something a lot more concentrated in terms of its flavors. Okay? So, you hear that sizzling, everybody? That is the water escaping the zucchini. I'm just stirring it once more to really, really ensure that my garlic is not stuck to the bottom of anything. Oh gosh. Guys, the sauce for the beef, it looks exceptional. And if it ever gets too thin, we can always add in, or if it gets too thick, we can always add a little bit more water by the end of it. And I'm just gonna flip my beef over. I'll show you guys the beef. Where's my beef shot? Where's my stove shot? Hello? There it is. And you can see, guys, look how glossy it is, right? You can see that the sauce is beginning to leave a trail inside of the pan, which is exactly what we are looking for. We want it to leave a trail. We want it to be nice and thick. We want it to be able to coat the beef and to be able to coat the vegetables as well as the egg noodles that we'll be cooking up later on. That is the kind of viscosity that we want. Okay. Zucchini. Oh, we're cooking it, my friends. We're just stirring it up. It's going to collapse. It's also going to lose a lot of its volume. Wonderful. I can put my red wine away. Everything is chilling out now. Okay, everybody, what do we have left to do? So, only things left is we gotta finish cooking this, we gotta finish cooking the egg noodles, and then we have to also juice the lemon. We're gonna juice the lemon, we're gonna zest the lemon, and we're going to be adding that directly into the zucchini. We don't add the juice and the zest of the lemon immediately, because we'll be losing all of those really aromatic, volatile flavors, all those really aromatic, all those really volatile aromatics, from the lemon zest. We're gonna only add it at the end as soon as it's done cooking. But we can simply prepare it in advance and ahead of time, just so that it is out of sight and out of mind as well. And while this is cooking, I do wanna just taste the sauce. I want to see where the sauce is at. I want to see what else it's going to need. We're still going to be finishing it with the heavy cream to just give it a really, really rich feel at the end. Okay? So, let's see how this is doing. Give that a little taste. Delicious. Very, very delicious. How long does red wine keep in the fridge once it's open, Fendwalu? No answer at all. I have no clue. I keep it in there for quite a long time. I have no idea. Okay, we are going to be switching the pans. This is going to be the one for the zucchini. And guys, look how wet the bottom of the pan got for the zucchini, okay? That is all of the liquid being released by it. And that's exactly what we're looking for. I'm going to quickly transfer that over to here. There she is. And the beef is getting nice and tender. And the sauce is getting nice and glossy. It's getting nice and thick. Ah. It's all coming together, everybody. It's been a bit of hectic cooking today. But it's going. It's looking quite good at this stage. And I'll be flipping the meat over again, just to really ensure even cooking all the way through. There you go. Okay. So, everybody, hi. It's good to have all of you today. So, let's do a little recap on what we have going on so far, because I know we've been crazy, we've been throwing stuff around. I'm sorry if it's been a little bit of a mess today. I didn't realize how many active components we'd have going at once. So, for those of you guys that are tuning in, it's lovely to have you. Welcome to the cooking show. Today, we're doing, well, what was initially intended to be a scalloped beef. We had some top round, I believe it was either top round or bottom round. We took the beef, we dry brined it with salt. We pounded it out nice and thin, as thinly as we could. We let it sit with a little bit of baking soda to velvet it, to tenderize it. We floured it, fried it, added pearl onions, added mushrooms, added red wine. We made a mushroom stock out of all of our leftover mushroom stems. And now that is just going, and that is just cooking away. Behind me, I also have going a little stewed zucchini. Super simple, super easy. We just took some olive oil. We cooked in the shallots. We infused the olive oil with all the shallots. We added garlic. We added red pepper flakes to it. And then we added in the zucchini. We're going to be finishing it with a little bit of lemon juice, as well as some freshly sliced in parsley, just to give it a little bit of oomph, right? Just to really lighten it up at the end. And then to go along with all of that, I'm just going to be boiling some egg noodles. So I'm getting some water boiling and all ready to go. I'm just moving my zucchini every so often. I'm flipping it over. Again, there was no point even trying to brown the zucchini through something like this. I just wanted it to collapse and release its moisture inside of the pot. This, however, is cooking along really nicely. I'm just going to go in here. I'm going to scrape it up. Okay? And actually, guys, I think my sauce might now be getting a little bit too thick. You can see how dry it's getting on the pan, but because of how thick it has gotten, it is beginning to just really, really beautifully coat all of my vegetables. It's beginning to coat my pearl onions and my mushrooms. So look at it go. We're going to lower that heat right back down. Actually, guys, I quite like this viscosity. I really like this thickness. Look at how much thickening we're getting, despite the fact that we never really added flour directly into the sauce. All of that is purely from the residual flour. All that is purely from the reduced red wine, and it's getting really, really thick. However, to my taste, that is too thick. That is not what I really want it to look like at the end. I keep saying viscosity, don't I? But it's an important word. It's very descriptive for things like this. Okay, let's taste that. Excellent. We're going to thin it out. We're going to be thinning it out with a little bit of extra water. And we also need to think about how to add the mustard in. If we were to go in as it is and add the mustard, the problem is we risk it splitting. To stop it from splitting, to stop it from separating into a bunch of little granules, what we're going to do is essentially add the mustard with a little bit of diluted water inside of it. Okay? And we don't need too much Dijon mustard. Oh my God, I just got some on my cutting board and my fingers. That's okay. We just need a little bit of mustard. That's going to be more than fine for today. And I'm just going in with a little droplet of water. And I'm going to add in some of the sauce from the meat itself. And it's a lot easier to get this part whisked up very, very evenly than it would be to just add the mustard directly inside. Add the mustard directly inside, and we'll end up with a bunch of little teeny tiny bits of mustard. So I'm gonna go in with some more of that sauce, because it's really, really starchy. Mix it up, mix it up, mix it up, mix it up. Ugh, I got mustard on my hands accidentally. That was not what I intended to do. The kitchen is not letting me be very clean and organized today, is it? It's all kind of catching up with me. Okay. I love mustard too, Moonha. Don't you worry. I adore mustard. Mix it up. Mix it up, mix it up, mix it up. Get all those little teeny tiny granules out as much as possible. We're just juggling so many components. I can't help being a little bit messy today, guys. I just really can't help it. Oh, but my stewed zucchini is looking wonderful. Okay. To the stove we go. Add that mustard inside. Again, much more difficult to split now that we have simply treated it with a little bit of water. And now let's mix it in. Now let's mix it in. And then last but not least, guys, we're going to be adding in some heavy cream into this mess. Ugh, I gotta stop scraping with the pan like that. Heavy cream. We're gonna be adding in a nice good glug of it. I want something very rich. I want something very delicious. Couple of big glugs of heavy cream. It has enough starch to be able to naturally stabilize, but the cream is just there to give us an extra dimension of flavor, everybody. It's not that far off from the flavor profile of a stroganoff, honestly. It's all basically the same components. Really, have we just made a glorified stroganoff? I guess so. I think we did. And that's okay. Ooh. Yeah, wait a second. How did I end up at basically just remaking a stroganoff at the end of all of this? Huh. It's not sour cream, it is just heavy cream, but that's okay. All right, let's give it a little taste. The mustard really, really pushes it. It's not a stroganoff without the Worcestershire sauce, I say, as a cope. Everybody, honestly, that's good. That's done. That's nice and thick. That's nice and rich. The salinity is perfect. It doesn't need any more salt. I think that's good to go as it is. I think that's perfect. Wonderful. And then, really quickly, we do still need to do the parsley and whatnot. Have I mixed up the spoons? That's okay. That's quite all right. Let me taste my zucchini. Let me make sure that came out good. I just want the zucchini to be nice and soft, nice and tender. So simple, but really delicious. Okay, switch pans. Here we go. Guys, let's get the parsley prepped. We're going to be taking it off the stems. Why? The parsley stems, they tend to have a very, very unpleasant texture. They tend to be a little bit too woody. So we're just going to go ahead and pluck the leaves off the stems. This has been sitting out at room temperature for a little while, so it's gotten a little bit wilted. I've already done you guys the liberty of plucking the rest of it off, so we don't have to waste time doing that. Okay, now we're going to take the parsley and we're going to go ahead, we're going to bundle it up. We're going to bundle it up, we're going to bundle it up. And everybody, super important, I want to hear a nice resounding yes, chef, from everybody watching, please and thank you. We do not chop it, we slice it. We slice it. If you chop it, you're going to crush it, you're going to bruise it. You want to use minimal vertical force, and you want to go all the way through with the full length of your knife. Slice it, my friends. Slice it, slice it, slice it, slice it, slice it, slice it. Just like so. Slice it all the way, Excellent. And we're not even going to really go through this multiple times. Just like that is good as it is. And we're going to be adding in a little bit into the stroganoff right now. Oh, I called it a stroganoff. Oh no. The integrity. Ah, it's all gone. Okay, whatever. It's functionally a stroganoff at this point, really. My stewed squash is also done. We're going to let that cool off a little bit, and then we'll be finishing it with the lemon juice and the lemon zest. Okay, I was thinking of the word stroganoff too much, guys. It's not my fault. Okay, egg noodles. God damn it. This is stroganoff with egg noodles. That's not what I intended this being. Granted, stroganoff is supposed to be a steak cut. Anyways, I'm annoyed about this. Whatever. I can't believe we reinvented the wheel here. Okay, let's get that egg noodle cooking. I really can't believe it. There we go. We're gonna go ahead and heavily season the water. You want the water to be super salty, okay? Because a very small percentage of it actually ends up permeating and penetrating the pasta or the egg noodles or whatever it is that you're actually using. So you need your water to be way too salty because it's only picking up a very little bit of it. Okay. Chef coping in real time, that's right. Maybe a little bit. So, egg noodles go inside. And we'll stir it up in a second. Oh, I made a mess today. Oh no, that's okay. I'll just put a few things away while I have a second. Let's stir this bad boy up. And then we'll just quickly work on the lemon. Okay, that's all looking good. Last but not least, lemon time. I want a little bit of extra brightness, okay, inside of my final stewed zucchini. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my humble little lemon. We're going to grab my microplane, okay, and we just want to be able to get the zest. We don't want to get any of the pith. We don't want to get any of the white part. The white part is bitter. The majority of the lemon's flavor and aroma is all in the skin, guys. It's all in the skin. So make sure that you clean your lemon and zest it. And I'm going to take it. I'm going to take my microplane and I'm pivoting it and running it at the same time as I'm rotating my lemon. And I'm going in with a lot of lemon zest. This might seem like a crazy amount of lemon zest, and that's because it is. And I'm going to take all of that and add it directly to the stewed squash. And last but not least, I'm not even going to take out my citrus press for this. We don't need too much lemon juice. I just want a little bit of acidity to brighten up the stewed squash. It's a little bit oily. It's all kind of soft in there. So I'm not even going to use my citrus press for this. Just a little bit of lemon juice goes in, stir it up, and then we'll give it a taste. And we'll give it a taste, and we'll adjust it for anything else that it needs. Let's give that bad boy a taste. Although that is the spoon I was initially using for my egg noodles, but it's fine. Nothing even matters anymore. Come on, hop up, thank you. Let's give that a taste. Taste it for salinity, taste it for acidity. Guys, that lemon zest, being so aggressive with it, I'm telling you, it really transforms it. Okay? So many people, they do little teeny tiny dainty amounts of lemon zest. I wanted the squash to have some flavor, and we can really push how much flavor it has just using really simple ingredients. However, the zucchini is very delicious, Moonha. Very delicious. So I'm very pleased with that. And last but not least, of course, a generous amount of that parsley goes in. Let's mix it up. That is all ready to go for later. I'm very pleased with how that came out. And then everybody will be plating up in just a moment's time. We're just waiting for these egg noodles to finish up. Just for them to get nice and soft. That shouldn't take too long at all. And I'm not actually going to be buttering these egg noodles or anything. And the reason of that, for that is because everything else I have is quite greasy, as it is, right? My scalloped beef, my stewed zucchini. They're all quite oily, they're all quite greasy. My egg noodles, they don't really need that. The oil, it helps them to not stick to each other while they sit there and they wait, but because of the fact that I'm serving this immediately, I'm just gonna be serving them as it is on the plate, okay? Wonderful. I'm gonna move my cutting board away. I'm gonna make a little bit of space for us. And we'll be plating up really, really shortly, my friends. Is everybody excited? I want to hear a nice yes, chef, please and thank you. Guys, if you'd like to support the show, please, 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 please check out the Patreon. Really, really important. Everything from the Patreon, I'm trying to have it go back towards the cooking show. I'm working on some new improvements, some new upgrades. Please check out the Patreon. It's the best way to directly support me. Exclamation mark Patreon. Or, alternatively, tip or donate. Exclamation mark tip and exclamation mark donate. The Patreon doesn't really give you anything. There is a sub-exclusive Patreon. But ultimately, I would like for all of my information to be free and accessible to everybody that's watching. And so, any and all support's really appreciated there. Okay, almost done. Almost ready to pull this out. We're officially done shilling as well, so enough of that. Taste that. Nicely seasoned as well. Very nicely salted. You have to be super, super aggressive with the amount of salt that you're using, everybody, okay? Whenever you're cooking pasta, whenever you're boiling potatoes or something, you want it salty like seawater. It's not just a thing that chefs on TV say. It really makes a difference. Your pastas, your noodles, they are night and day that way, okay? Now, that is ready to go. We're gonna go ahead and pour that out. I don't even use a strainer, guys. I just use the tried and true method of a lid and the pot. And then we'll be able to plate it up. Oh, we've had so many moving components today. Today's been a busy stream. Okay? Everybody, it is time for us to plate. I'm going to move that aside. I'm going to put that over here. We're going to assemble a beautiful plate of all the food that we have worked so hard to make together today. It does look a little bit more like a beef bourguignon than a stroganoff. Correct. That is because of like the pearl onions, right? Very like a Julia Child's beef bourguignon. Okay, guys, let's go ahead and get some egg noodles right here. Excellent. Let's go ahead and get ourselves some nice pieces of this beef, as well as all that rich, thick sauce in which it all cooked. I gotta figure out how to do sauces that aren't just like cream and mushrooms. As delicious as that is, it is beginning to get a little bit samey for me, isn't it? It's all that I really have the materials for at home though, usually. That's okay. Get a little bit, one more chunk of onion. Because honestly, it's all about these pearl onions today. Gorgeous. Very, very pleased about that. Very happy about it. And then maybe we'll do the zucchini on the same thing. Let's get my zucchini out. With the parsley, with the lemon juice, with the lemon zest. It's very aromatic. It's very citrusy, it's very bright, it's very tasty. There's a big pile of that right over here. And that is a really, really, really comforting plate of food. And last but not least, just because we have some, let's do just a little bit of parsley on top of everything. Okay, guys, that looks great. I'm very, very happy about it. We're going to go ahead and do one last recap session. So if everybody's watching, I want to hear a nice Rosanna, yes, chef, please and thank you from each and every single one of you. Everybody, this is my scalloped beef in a pearl onion and mushroom sauce with stewed zucchini and egg noodles. We took the beef, thinly sliced it, brined it in some salt, pounded it out, and then we hit it with a little bit of baking soda to tenderize it, to velvet it. We coated it in flour, we fried it, added pearl onions, added mushrooms. We made some mushroom stock out of the leftover mushroom stems, a whole bunch of red wine, heavy cream, a little bit of parsley on top. The stewed zucchini, really simple. Olive oil infused with shallots, garlic, and a little bit of red pepper flake. We added the zucchini and we finished it with lemon juice and lemon zest. And these, my friends, are just some plain old egg noodles. And I'm going to go ahead and take a little picture for myself, just to make sure that I have this recorded and so that I have something to put online. And so we're gonna get a little slice of beef. We're gonna have a little bit of pearl onion. We're gonna try to soak some of that up with the egg noodles, and we'll see how it all came out, my friends. And that piece of beef, you can see, it just simply teared off nice and easily. Oh, that's really delicious. The sauce is really rich. It's really viscous. Now, ideally, this is how you would eat it. You'd kind of want to make a bit of a mess of it, just like so. Now, I will say, I do wish my meat was ultimately a little bit thinner. So that the baking soda could have had more of a pronounced effect. But honestly, guys, that is super delicious as it is. Again, not my peak softness, but still very tasty. Very, very soft. And now we have to have a little bit of pearl onion. Still with a little bit of bite to it. Like candy. Getting that pearl onion is so sweet, it's like a little surprise. Oh, guys, the onion, that's the star. And of course, some of my stewed squash. It looks really unassuming, but let me tell you something right now. It really is greater than the sum of its parts. It's nicely cooked, there's a little bit of bite to it, but the lemoniness and the citrusiness of it really elevates it. You take a bite out of it, and then, like I'm telling you guys, adding the lemon zest at the end off the heat, it really perfumes it. I don't like going with a little bit of lemon zest. I did an entire lemon's worth of zest, and it just makes it really, really pop. That. Maybe a butter sauce. No, you don't want a butter sauce because you have all of this. You have all of this that you want the egg noodles to mop up, you know? But this is basically a stroganoff that I ended up making. Hot. Very delicious. Very, very pleased about how that came out. I'll have another bite before I sign off for today. But yeah, to get the texture I wanted, definitely needed thinner meat though. Too thick, way too thick. But everybody, that's gonna do it for me today. We're all done. We did all the cooking. Thank you so much for being here. I'm gonna see you, of course, next week, Sunday, January 12th, January 19th, 5 p.m. EST. For those of you that haven't already done so, join my Discord, !Discord. KD180, these are just plain old egg noodles, just medium egg noodles. Yeah, they're really simple, they're very delicious. It was lovely to have all of you. Thank you guys all for stopping by. Thank you guys for joining and watching and listening. Next week, I hopefully am not going to be sick this time. I'm gonna be a little bit more calm. I'm gonna be a little bit more collected. It was lovely to have all of you. Be well, be safe, be warm. It's been really cold and unpleasant in New York City. And I will see you all next week. Goodbye.